Hey, how's it going, everybody? Welcome to the Emerald Podcast. And before this episode starts, I just want to give a quick introduction. I'm your host, Amar, and I'll be joined by my guest, Ayush Bhargava. Ayush is the co founder of Changeroom, and he built a startup starting in high school. So we'll be kind of going over his journey and how he did that and how he's doing in management engineering at Waterloo and all that. So stick around and we'll see you guys later. Yeah, just to introduce, so welcome to the podcast. My name is Amar, and then I'm joined by Ayush Bhargava here, who is the co-founder of Changeroom. And Ayush, I'll let you introduce yourself.
All right. Yeah. Hey, happy to be on. Thanks for inviting me. Yeah. So I'm Ayush, like Amara said, and yeah, I'm also in management engineering, second year, um, going into 2A, and right now is our summer season. So so we're doing a entrepreneurship co-op for my first co-op, working on a change room since which I've been working on since high school.
What was the process of applying to like an e-co-op?
Yeah, so the process was pretty straightforward. You just kind of had to have the basic idea of what you're going to do, what startup you're going to make, maybe just like a problem analysis, maybe a bit of work you put into, but the process is pretty straightforward in terms of getting into a entrepreneurship co-op. Maybe if you're like younger years, like first, second year, you want to show a bit more because it's really meant for like seniors, but yeah, it was an interview, and then you got pretty much accepted after that.
Interesting, interesting. And do they take like a limited amount of people each term? I'm sure there's like some limit, right?
Yeah, it's like 20 to 30 people.
20 to 30. Interesting, interesting. And like, so how long were you working on Changeroom, did you say?
Yeah, so I've been working on Changeroom as a business for like 2.5 years.
Interesting, interesting. So like, I guess your co-founding team, you don't have to name them, but like how big was it and like what was the story? Why'd you guys start it? It was kind of the motivation, I guess.
Yeah,
Get
for
into that.
sure. So, I mean, originally it was just like two people, like me and another co-founder, and the original motivation for Changeroom was to create a sizing tool to help customers find their perfect size online. So it was originally going to be a tool in which you'd be allowed to a customer to uh, model themselves, make a 3D model version of themselves, and then embody clothing onto their 3D model.
Interesting, interesting.
Yeah,
Was so kind of like was it gonna be like augmented reality or more like
yeah, it was definitely the original vision was like an augmented reality version, but it was just too complex, and it wasn't a yeah. It was just the original vision, but obviously pivoted a couple of times since then.
right, right, right. Okay,
Yeah,
that's really cool. I didn't know it started off as that.
yeah,
And I guess well we forgot to go over this, but what is Change Room? Like what's kind of how would you explain it in its current
yeah, for
form?
yeah, for sure. So yeah, so currently, so Change Room is a sustainable fashion marketplace, and currently the problem in sustainable fashion right now is that are there are sustainable retailers out there, but they're quite spread out. It's difficult to find, brands that meet your style, um, your values, and your pricing really easily because how fast fashion is super accessible. Sustainable is not like that. So there's really a missing aggregation of these sustainable new products. And the other thing is that right now there's a lot of standardization issues with sustainability. So like nobody knows like what is sustainable, what is not. There's a lot of greenwashing going on, which also means like brands that are pretending they're sustainable. So there's no a standard for sustainability. So with Changeroom, those are the two things we're really solving is by creating a marketplace for and aggregating these sustainable brands who obviously produce a lot less clothing than a fast fashion brand due to their sustainable production methods, as well as creating a standard where every brand on our marketplace has a set of values, which it could include eco-friendly materials, made ethically, made in Canada. Yeah,
Interesting.
yeah.
And so like in terms of like that build process, the whole like how to get started, um, did you have more programming experience going into this, or did you kind of use this to pivot your journey going into programming? Let's say, like I know what's your tech stack, and maybe you can go over that, kind of just like your journey, like engineering wise, to build this thing.
Yeah, for sure. So, I mean, it's always been like JavaScript oriented. Originally, like I wasn't doing any coding whatsoever. I had a couple like developers, but over time, I got more into the development side, a lot on the front end. So, yeah, our current stack is React Native and Node.js Express and MongoDB. So that's for yeah the Marin stack, and that's in terms of the mobile app. And then we also have an integration on Shopify, which allows us to onboard these sustainable brands, and that uses our React.
Interesting. That's pretty
Yeah,
cool. All right.
yeah,
So just to kind of also talk about like what are you guys? What are you guys' like goals going forward in the future? How are you guys doing right now in terms of what you've obtained and like you don't have to really reveal any numbers, but like current milestones and future milestones. What's your goals? Let's just kind of go over that.
yeah, for sure. So yeah, I mean, in terms of like previous milestones, like we won the Velocity Concept 5K. So we did that in our first semester, first year, and
Jeez.
then we also won the. It's a there's a so at Waterloo is the Velocity, and then the second version of that is a sustain is in like a more of a sustainable slash like eco slash like social impact version of the incubator. And we went to that program the second semester, and yeah, we won that greenhouse grant as well, the greenhouse pitch competition. So we got some grant money from that, right, going into this summer. So in terms of we did have a good base amount of money in terms of getting started with the marketing strategies. So our current so far we have in terms of our marketplace, we fully developed our marketplace. It's a mobile app. It's on iOS and Google Play stores, and we are already have onboarded 13 brands across Toronto. So we have about 1,500 to 2,000 products. And right now for us, it's like a time of like trying to hustle in terms of demand side because we took a beachhead approach, which means that we as a marketplace focus on one specific area in terms of uh, targeting by geographic location and product category. So we targeted Toronto, and we were really sticking to like boutique style fashion, right? Because through a beachhead strategy, the goal of a beachhead is like you take over this tiny bit of the market, and and then you start advancing from there, right? So we aggregated these kind of boutique style, and right now we're on the marketing. Now we're more focused on the demand side, and we've tried a variety of strategies in terms of getting our first 1,000 users, including like Facebook ads, Pinterest ads, trying some influencer marketing. But in terms of getting those first 1,000 users, it's more going to be a hustle in terms of really talking to these users. So we'll probably end up doing in person selling. So selling live at maybe at markets and stuff because you really got to hustle for those 1,000 users because you don't have that reputation attraction yet. So after you get to those 1,000 users is when you can when we plan on getting like an investment, maybe you get our pre-seed round or an angel investment, and that's our
Right.
goal is to get that in August. Yeah,
Yeah, and then you can go forward into like your Series A and whatnot.
exactly. Yeah.
Right. That makes sense. Interesting. That's cool. So it's more like supporting local businesses in a way and kind of empowering that, would you say?
Yeah, that's a big yeah, that's definitely a big aspect to sustainability, right? I think sustainability is like encompasses like a variety of things. I would say like number one, obviously being environmentally friendly. Number two being like so the social side of things. So like the child labor and ethical working conditions. And then thirdly, also is like economically, right? You want to support your local businesses. You want to support like local, and I think that's very important to sustainability.
Yeah, you raise a good point with the child labor and everything. So
Mhm.
yeah, I definitely agree with that. And I know a lot of brands nowadays are pushing towards that. So I know H&M is doing a lot of recycled clothing. So they take old clothing and recycle it and reuse its materials. I know Nike does that a lot. Um,
Hmm.
I guess like
Yeah,
you could say the industry is pushing that. Sorry to cut you off. Yeah, you were saying.
no, no, yeah, I'm saying it. The industry is definitely putting some work, and but at the same time, there's a lot of like greenwashing going on where like brands are pretending they're more sustainable than they are. So it's yeah, that's the kind of the other part of the situation.
Right. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's so true. And I guess the other thing is that you mentioned the influencer marketplace. It's like what are why are you targeting influencers and what's your goal for that? I remember us talking about that earlier. What was your goal with the influencer marketplace?
Yeah, so I mean, yeah, currently we're more focused right now on the sustainable fashion marketplace, but we are definitely like involving like in terms of our tactic of getting influencers to market us. We are marketing we're starting with like local micro influencers, so like influencers with like 5,000 to like 15,000, and these influencers are like very targeted. Like one influencer we worked with was based out of like Hamilton, so it was a good one to work with because we were targeting GTA and Hamilton based businesses. So yeah, our current strategy in terms of is like influencer based marketing, especially with these micro
Mhm.
communities, could be beneficial in terms of growing Changeroom. But at the same time, a lot of these influencers are their price tags are a lot more costly.
Mhm. That's true. That's true. A lot of influencers have like merchandise and stuff. So,
Mm.
are you targeting more like that, where they can sell their merchandise, or is it using influencers to kind of market uh your like whatever current brands sign up with your app?
Yeah, at the moment we're focused on leveraging the influencers following for to market the current brands. But yeah, it's definitely a possibility of something we could go into later on.
Right, right. And so yeah, really interesting to hear about Changeroom. Guy, I guess more so the advice you'd give. Let's say, like for me for example, right? I'm very new to the startup world, trying to create my own. It's more a passion project for now. But what advice, I guess, would you give to someone starting off? Like, what phases do you have to go through? What were the biggest headaches for you, I guess, starting off?
Yeah, yeah, for sure. So I mean, like the traditional like advice usually when you're starting something up is, I mean, you need to solve a problem, right? And the validation aspect of that is like super important, and it's also very much like skipped by a lot of like traditionally like engineers who just want to start building right away. So there's a lot
Yeah,
of
that's me.
so a lot of people, you know, build a solution and then they try to get it validated, which is like, I mean, like it's not a great approach because you have to pivot a lot. Like there's a book called like Lean Startup, and it talks about this strategy. But pretty much what the goal is to like not write a single line of code, and you want to get a solution which is validated. And then when you have like by working with customers and talking to customers with a maybe a Figma version of your project, or even just getting a lot more validation with your customer is when you get some committed customers is when you ideally start coding the product. But
Mhm.
I think one of the most important parts to do this if you're starting out is first is getting the problem right. So a lot of the time, the best I think solutions are problems that you have yourself. Um, but you need to get more validation than yourself, right? And um, you need to start, you know, you have to think of if it's if it's yourself, you have to really think of like who is this targeted towards, who's the market that this problem is experienced by most. And yeah, I traditionally have like a series of questions I like to ask people in terms of how to talk to users, right? So the five like questions I like to ask is like, what is the hardest part about doing this problem, right? Um, and this is like an open-ended question to learn about some of the pain points that a customer has. what is the last time you encountered this problem? So you kind of understand the time frame and context behind it. The other one being maybe like, why was it hard? And those are some of the reasons behind, why this particular problem was difficult. And it'll explain like the value and benefits of what your solution will provide, right? And then what, if anything, is done to solve this problem? And I like this question because like if a customer isn't like actively looking for alternatives, it's not like a burning desire to solve, right? It could be their like 40th, 50th, problem they want to solve, but usually want to get the first, second, third problem, right? And then what do you not love about the solutions you tried is the fifth question I usually ask. And this means like it helps you kind of figure out like what features your solution should have. Um, and it kind of understands, oh yes, this is what I can kind of can inform you what will be different about your solution. So yeah, those are the five questions I usually like to ask in terms of or what I ended up creating after going through this whole process.
Interesting. That's the format. That's it works for customer discovery, right? That was for
Exactly. Yeah.
concept, I believe. Something like concept
It was,
resources.
it was a yeah, it was a Y actually YC startup
Oh,
resource.
interesting. Okay.
But yeah, I would say, yeah, those are definitely good customer discovery questions to ask. And then I guess if you are in university or at Waterloo, I'd highly recommend, speaking to like at Waterloo, they got like concept coaches, velocity concept coaches. So they have like an entrepreneurship program. And there's these mentors and advisors who are like free to speak to, and they're like happy to kind of walk you through some of these processes and talk to you about problems. And they really, really are like industry experts. So they could
So
help.
you definitely that's one of the big things you would recommend is to talk to
Yeah.
one of those.
Yeah, for sure.
And in your experience, have you been in meetings with one of them before?
Yeah, definitely. I had meetings with a couple of them.
Oh,
Like one of them was like met with Ian Tao, and he was actually a YC alumni, and
wow.
he gave me like really good advice where he's like, um, yeah, you need to your target market needs to be small. Like you need your the current target, like at that time with our solution we were targeting way too many people. You have to have much more concise target market. And he says,
Mhm.
and the other thing he said was like, don't be like launch as many times as you want, right? Because like for example, like Airbnb, right? Their first launch was not successful. Um, so they launched it like three times before they actually became successful. And the goal is to
Oh,
is to
really?
build is to yeah three times. So like the first time I
Wow.
think it was like there it was for a conference and like two people came, and then like the next time they launched, like I think the only person that stayed there was like the founder himself for their Airbnb. And then the third time I think it was through Y Combinator when they got into YC, and then that was okay as well, but it took like 3 years for them to get anywhere. So
I never knew that. Interesting.
yeah.
Is YC like the final goal you'd say for a lot of startups?
I mean it's not a
Not
final
final goal,
goal.
but like one of the especially for seed rounds and for funding. Is that one of the major goals?
Definitely, everyone wants to get into YC. YC is like the place to be for sure. All the experts are there. Um,
Yeah.
like that's like not only do they provide like the funding, like the community of YC is like top class, right? Like Airbnb has gone through that. Like top startups have been through that in the last 10 years.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. And so that's definitely good advice. You're talking about how engineers like jumping into problems and something I can relate to a lot. I mean,
Mhm.
a lot of people, especially. Oh, sorry. Why is my Siri going off? Damn it. But yeah, a lot of engineers, we like to do hackathons and just continue building stuff. But what I notice is that when you start looking into the perspective of like a UX designer or a product designer, let's say, right? Going through
Mhm.
that process of like you guys call it customer discovery, right?
Mhm.
I think in product design, it's like user research, um,
Yeah.
or like user personas, just kind of figuring out like what the user wants and how they want what are their pain points, how they want the app to function.
Mhm.
I guess after that,
Exactly.
then do you prototype more in design, um, as in like do you design on Figma, or do you just straight up make prototypes with code?
No, no,
What was kind of the
definitely.
process for you?
We went with a Figma route as well. Like we for our mobile app, we built it through Figma originally, so we can get the design right. Because like prototyping with like even like JS is like it takes time, right, to make design
Yeah,
related changes. So definitely Figma, and then I would say like after doing the design work is like another time you should talk to customers about your solution. Now you want to talk about your solution more, and you want to pitch that solution to other people. And now you got now you like you know with like Figma you can like prototype it, so it kind of looks like a real
yeah,
app.
exactly. Yeah.
You want to demo that to customers and say, hey, is this something you're going to put money towards? That's the important part. They're
Hmm.
going to pay for something. They're going
Would
to
you
pay
pay
for.
for this? Yeah.
Yeah,
Even if it's a free app, right? Like, would you pay for this?
yeah, exactly. Like that's the question you want to ask.
Right. So first is like the interview process to find the problem, like the
Mhm.
validation of the problem. And then the
Yeah,
next one is you create some sample solutions and then you want to validate which one's the better one or how would you execute the solution.
yeah. I'd say there's no one way to go about executing the solution, but you definitely like get like a continuous feedback cycle, right? So you maybe show it to a couple of customers and go back and make changes, right? Make changes based off what they told you, and you definitely want to show it to like at least a couple customers. I know like originally when we created our solution, we did it like the wrong way, where we actually built a full on solution with code, and we showed it to our customer, and they're like, nah, 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 you got to change all this stuff. It's not good. So we had to go back, recode everything, and then we drove back to their store and we showed it again. And we went through that process for a couple months, and it was not a great experience because we could have easily done this beforehand with Figma. But
Oh, right. But you guys
yeah,
kept making the prototypes in code. Okay.
yeah.
So
So we'd go,
yeah.
yeah.
So and then
No,
in terms of yeah, go ahead. Go ahead.
no. You can go ahead.
I was gonna ask about sort of the process of designing. What are you thinking? Are you more like mobile first design? Was that your target? Did you? Because I remember your app currently is on iOS, right?
Hmm.
And have you released anything for Android?
Oh yeah, we have an Android version out for a
Oh,
couple
okay,
months.
okay, okay.
Yeah, yeah,
You have one out now. So and then, but your first one was the iOS, as far as
yeah,
I can remember. And was
yeah.
that more related to your target market? You would say, like more your target
The
users were using the iOS
Yeah, I would say
ecosystem.
yeah. iOS ecosystem is pretty popular for our early adopters, which are like older millennials slash younger Gen X women who are based in Toronto. So iOS is definitely the majority of the phones they
Interesting.
use. Yeah.
You're so right. You're so right about the validation thing, though, because like it's never your first idea that would end up being your last idea, or like your
Hmm.
final thing that you end up executing, right? Wouldn't you agree?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah,
For sure.
definitely.
Yeah, I mean, like I remember in grade 10, I tried creating like some startup or whatever,
Hmm.
after watching too much Gary Vee, and
Hmm.
I was like, I should just build this app myself. There's no need to prototype or anything, and I'll just present it to some VC or whatever, completely skipping over any uh, talking to people, validating that idea. So ended up, you know, n- not actually building the thing and ended up not working. But I guess now with my current startup, um, we've switched between problem statements like so many times. What problem are
Yeah.
we trying to solve? And just trying to get that concrete, trying to get it down, set in stone, so that we can actually start making solutions related to it. So yeah, you're definitely right about the validation.
You,
Something I've
you
heard
know,
is yeah. Go ahead. Go ahead.
I was going to say one more thing actually about that problem is like there's actually something at Waterloo. I mean, if there's a lot of Waterloo people listening to this, there's something called like a problem pitch, and that's what we're doing right now. But that's super helpful in terms of understanding. Like it's a pitch just for the problem. No, you don't talk about your solution at all, and you get $15,000 if you win it. So it's actually really
Is
good.
that through a
Especially,
concept?
no, it's another program at Waterloo.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Um, but yeah, that's really pushes you to think like about. like the scale of your problem. Like not only is this a big problem to solve, is it $1 billion problem to solve? Is it what's the competition like? It really pushes you to dig deep and do a lot of research, which I think like doing this already, it's kind of opened our eyes in terms of like making in terms of our problem statement as well. So similar to what you're saying.
Yeah, yeah, definitely,
Yeah.
definitely. There's a lot of I've noticed at Waterloo. There's a lot of just entrepreneurship resources and clubs and everything.
Yeah,
Um,
definitely.
it's just so many people that are trying to do startups here, and that is good. Regardless of my mindset is like if you're a student trying to make a startup, um, and if it's your first one, or you're not like as serious. Like for me for example, I don't really care if I go into Series A or whatever pre-seed. It's not my goal. My goal is to kind of make a really big project, treat it like it's a startup, and then learn from it, right? So
Mhm.
that's something I would recommend because a lot of companies, especially like I talked to my employer, and he's like a lot of the kids that make startups or really big projects in school are the ones that end up on top. They get that all around experience instead of purely just being code monkeys, right? As
Mhm.
you know. So yeah, definitely agree with the validation thing. And I was gonna say about the validation, and that whole customer discovery phase. One of the quotes I've heard is 90% planning, 10% building.
Mhm. Yeah, that's
I
true.
think literally it was in one of the concept resources that you sent.
Funny. Yeah, definitely. I agree.
So yeah, um, just to kind of wrap it up, final advice, final things. What are your big goals? I think you kind of went over some of them, but what are your kind of big goals for Change Room? How do people discover Change Room? Um, I guess yeah, give a shout out. Like,
Yeah, for sure. So yeah, big goals. I guess to start off with the big goals for Change Room. Obviously, our goal is to eventually get in the YC. That's the maybe we'll try to get in the winter batch of 2022. Try to get it like funded and try to grow our base. Try to get to the first 1,000 customers. And then yeah, so right now we're launched on iOS on and on Android. So it's if you search up Change Room Marketplace, you should find it. But yeah, we're definitely right now working hard on grinding this summer out, trying to see where we can where we can grow this.
interesting. So yeah, definitely. Ayush, we'll be having you on the podcast. Feel free to join anytime. Be good to have you on again. We can go over more things related to startups, and we're definitely excited to see where Change Room goes. So just to wrap up the podcast, we went over some advice on creating your own startup. We went over Change Room and Ayush's journey into that. So we'll have Ayush on more. We'll have him talking more about Change Room. But for now, that's it for the podcast, and we'll see you guys later.
Thank you.